Flow TV. Today I want to talk about creature, creator you are. I want to talk about this on the Victorious is Us or the Victorious series because there are moments in your life where you don't understand your bestiality. You don't understand your human being. You don't understand your creator inside of you. And God wants us to know who we are because once you know who you are, you can become whole. Once you know who you are, you can walk in that and begin to create within that. But you have to know. And what spiked this whole, conversation or this whole sermon for today is I was looking at the Vitruvian Man. What the Vitruvian Man is a picture that Leonardo da Vinci had created of a male figure. And it's supposed to exude power in the human being in the universe. And if you delve deeper, it's one of the most famous images in the whole world. And it reminds me of that image where the monkeys are walking and they're turning into a man. And that moment in the Bible where it talks about how Jesus has become grown in stature and he begins to walk in his creativeness that God has sent him to be predestined here to do, his purpose. And that's what we're supposed to do. There are levels to life, there are ways about life. Initially, God created animals first, He created the beasts first. And there was a moment where the beasts were ruling. There was a moment where the beasts were blessed and had dominion. And then humans came. Beasts were just doing, they were just there. Animals were just there and just being. I'm sorry, they were being. And that is our initial nature, is to be, to walk in that. But once you become a human, you're supposed to do something. You're supposed to create. And that's why God blessed when He said, be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth. And He gave us power over those beasts. But your initial nature is to just be, just to be an animal. But once you become a human and you call it a thing, you begin to speak the word because you have the nature of God. You begin to do. And you do because that's what you're here for. That's what He predestined you for. And it shows that initially in the Bible with Adam and Eve, they initially were themselves. And then He blew breath. And then we know good from evil. And then we choose evil. And now we have sin. And now there's the result of sin. And that drives you out of the garden. However, you're still able and capable of walking in your purpose, your destiny, your calling, and beginning to create. And that's what I want to talk about today. Our bestiality, our creativeness, because that's what gets you to your creativeness, your being. Because when you begin to like look into things and try to tweak it the way a human would and begin to think and have thought in it to know good from evil, to know right from wrong, to know what I should do and what I can't do, just be in that situation, just be a being. And that's how you become your creativeness. That's how you become who God initially intended for you to be. That's why God created the animals first. That's our initial nature. That's why they create those images of like your statue or your person growing into this being, because you should be coming from this spiritual sense. And that's what I'm talking about today, your spirit man. Because you could just have a body, you could just have an animal, but until you call it a thing, a cow can't move until you call it a cow. A horse can't trot until you call it a horse. A dog can't bark until you call it a dog. And that's what I'm saying today, because we begin to put these titles on ourselves and these categories on ourselves, and we don't understand what that means. You begin to do what you called it, because you are now in the likeness of Christ. You're now in the likeness of God. And that's what ultimately God intended for us in our spirit man. So as we walk in these levels to humanistic ways and we walk in our wholeness, we begin to see, those references in the Bible where God speaks about eagles, birds, wings, and, sheep. What is your animal spirit? What is it that you're exuding? In the Bible, He showed the snake came to Eve and initially made her sin. In the Bible, He speaks about sheep. In the Bible, He speaks about eagles and, us mounting up and having those natures and being like that. Are you walking in your being of your human animalistic ways or your bestiality? Or are you unable to reach it? The Bible talks about seven more spirits worse than before, because you can't, like, you're with Judas, a spirit had to enter him. It was impossible for Jesus to be present with him, for him to be a disciple, and for him to sin against Jesus. That's why a spirit nature had to come in him and create that evil. That's why Satan, like the snake, had to come to Eve in order for her to sin. She couldn't just walk up to that tree and sin. She needed something to enter her. She needed something to evil to be present. You know, and that's why I said it's impossible for that to happen unless a spirit entered Judas, because he was by Jesus, because he was so close to Jesus. Notice that that same satanic spirit came to Jesus and tried to get him to jump off the cliff and offer him kingdoms and things like that. But that's Jesus. You can't have that nature and that spirit in his presence. And that's the wholeness that we should walk in. That's the creativeness that we should walk in. That's what we were predestined and called to do. That's our spirit man. You know, even with Saul, like when he went to go see God, his spirit was able to attach, with David, because David had to have a new man, and even Saul had to have a new man. That's why Samuel came to anoint them. And that's why their spirit man is now afresh anew, and now it's changed. And with Saul, this same spirit that was on Saul was on David. That's why Saul was going crazy, and he needed David to come in and play the lyre in order for him to be sane. And there was a moment where maybe he noticed, like, hold up, that's you doing this. And they begin to have this whole little moment of spit and spat. But unfortunately, there can only be one. And God had predestined David to be that, and that's what he was. David had to be anointed to go to his next level. Like, it has to be in your destiny. God has a plan for you, for your creativeness. And that's why I said you have to walk in that. He has spoken it into existence before the foundations of the earth, because he knows who you are. He knows what you're capable of, and he knows that you can do the impossible. You have to have the God nature. He saved us to have the God nature. In Luke 9:23, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. That's daily. We have to walk in this creativeness and this creative nature. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and in the glory of God the Father and of the holy angels. I was talking to someone the other day about, walking in that and being ashamed. Like, sometimes we don't want to walk in our creativeness because we don't know if we're capable of doing it. But God provides you what you need in each season, for what you need in each season. Like, there's no moment where you're supposed to walk in something and you won't have the supply of what you need. Like, He's not gonna adhere to that. Some people are like, well, I don't have this. And that's why I put my screen name on Instagram, Equipped by God, because He's already equipped you for what you need in the season and the time that He has given you. It's just you have to call up out of your spirit, man, because it is in the inner, and a lot of people that go in this other realm, they create these photos like Da Vinci, and we don't understand it, but it's a place of power that you're supposed to walk in. As you get that stature and that nature, you automatically be, and then you become the person that actually does what you were created to be. And that's all I want to talk about. Victory is us. Much love. Be blessed. God's love.